The next elements of design is the category in visual elements. So after conceptual elements, we deal with visual elements. Of course, we have four elements of design. Let us consider these visual elements. So when we draw an object on a paper, we employ a line that is visible to represent a line that is conceptual, right? The visible line not only has length but also breadth. Its color and texture are determined by the materials we use and the way we use them. So, when conceptual elements become visible, they have shape. Okay, so the relation between these conceptual elements and the visual elements. The conceptual elements can be as visible, okay, provided that they have these properties, visual element properties. What are those? Shape, size, color, and texture. So we know any element, if you represent, they have these properties: shape, size, color, and texture. So these four properties are called visible elements. Now let us discuss each of these visual elements in detail. So as we know, these visual elements are visible, of course, with the aid of shape, size, color, and texture. If you see the first visual element, shape. So shape is nothing but what? Anything that can be seen has shape, right? And it is the main identification of our perception. For suppose here I can represent some shapes. So we can say which the one is it is a rectangle, it is a circle, it is a triangle, it is an ellipse. So we see and we determine the shape, and we can perceive the shape or the contour of an object. So this is what the visual element represents. The next visual element is size. So how this size appears and what are its properties? Let us have a look. So as earlier, these shapes definitely they have some size. So the size is relative, okay, 1 to 1, which varies. Okay, so it takes some relation or reference, then another we can say it is big or small. For suppose here these are three circles it is mentioned. So if you consider this second circle, okay, so then the first circle is bigger than the second circle, the third circle is smaller than the second circle. This we can say according to its size. Okay, so if some relation or reference is there, okay, then we can identify whether this is of a small size or bigger size. If we go for the next element, which is of visual element, is a color. Shape, size, color. So color has the property of something like this. A shape is differentiated from its surroundings by its color. Obviously, if we go to a dark room, we cannot visualize anything. If I write something like on the same color, the same with the same background, and the pen color is same, then it is not visible anything. So a form can be differentiated, of course, by color from its surroundings, right? The color not only their hues but also their tonal or chromatic variations, of course. Okay, so if we see these colors, how this is a square, it is differentiated with blue color. Okay, and here if you see this circle, it's tonal, color which has some white color gradient, and here it is some orange color. Okay, and it is some chromatic variation in the color is represented here. Okay, so this is how the size and color are varied to a shape. The color here is used in its broad sense, comprising not only all the hues of the spectrum but also the neutrals, maybe black, white, and all the intermediate grays, right? And also their tonal and chromatic variations. So this is what about the visual element of color. Now let's go for the next visual element, that is texture. So let's have a look on the properties of a texture. Texture is nothing but what? It is a surface representation of a shape. Okay, if a shape is there, previously we know it is color. Okay, what is the color of that? But if we represent the surface, okay, definitely the representation should give some variation. Okay, so this texture which represent the surface of the shape, it may be a plain surface, or it may be a decorated surface, or it may be a smooth or rough surface. Okay, so if you see these elements, okay, so here it is a plain surface, right? It is somehow it is decorated with some texture lines. Okay, this is like a rough surface. This is okay, so the representation is different for these four shapes. Okay, the surface representation of a shape is nothing but a texture. So not only this texture is of visual, by seeing we can identify the surface of the surface representation of a shape, not only with the visual but also which has the tactile texture. It is called sense of touch. By touching something we can identify this is a rough surface. By touching, say, a smooth surface, a blanket, we can feel touch and we can say that is the texture. So these are the some of the properties of this visual element. Okay, so these visual elements are for shape, size, color, and texture. Now let us focus on the next elements of design is relational elements. What are these relational elements and what are the various parameters, or we can say various elements in relational elements?